living creatures, and first of all, birds. A living creature lives, and it can move, and it can notice things. It's born, it dies, and it eats. It grows, it stands up, it sits down. Here is a bird, and it's making its nest by the sea. It's covered in feathers. Here we see the feathers on the bird. And it flies with wings. Here are 2 wings on the bird, which are also called pinions. It has the same number of feet, 2 feet. It has a tail, and it has a bill. Here's the bill or the beak of the bird. If it's a female, it lays eggs. Here's an egg, and it lays them in the nest. Here's the nest. And it incubates the eggs. It sits on the eggs, it incubates them, and it hatches out baby birds. The egg is covered with a shell, and inside the egg you have the yolk, and you have the white of the egg. Right, here we have a very busy picture. Domestic birds, these are birds that humans look after so that we can use them. Firstly, number 1, here he is, the cock, or the Americans call him a rooster. And he crows in the morning. He's got a comb on top of his head, here I'm pointing at it, and he has spurs, very sharp spurs on his feet, here they are, for fighting with. And if he's gelded, so he can't have a family, he's called a capon, and he grows very big and fat, and he's kept in a coop. Here's a coop here, right? It's like a cage, and he's fed lots of food. A hen, here's a hen, number 5. She scrapes around on the ground, and she picks up little grains. Here they are, and eats them. And the same thing also, pigeons. Here's a pigeon. They also eat up little grains and things from the ground. And pigeons, or doves, are kept in a dovecot. Here's one, number 7. And here are some doves, and they are kept in the dovecot. We have here a turkey. This is the male turkey, a turkey cock. And here we have a turkey hen next to her. She's not as pretty. I mean, neither of them are pretty. They're pretty ugly birds. But this is a turkey. It's a very big thing. We have a peacock here, which is very pretty, with its feathers coming out like that. There's a peacock. This is the male. A stork. Here's a stork. It's a chimney, and he's got his nest on top of the chimney. Here's a stork making his nest on top of the chimney. A swallow. Here's a swallow. Very fast bird. It comes to us in the summertime. Flies around the house. And we have a magpie, which has got black and white on its feathers. And a jackdaw here. And a bat. A bat isn't really a bird. It flies at night time. It's a mammal. And these all fly around the house. Here's a jackdaw, a swallow, a bat, right? And a sparrow. Here, little tiny sparrow. You see them in London, little brown birds. They all fly around. This is about songbirds. Songbirds. Number 1, the nightingale sings the most sweetly of all. It has a beautiful voice. A lark, here's a lark, it sings while it flies in the air. And so we have a saying in English, as happy as a lark. A quail, here's a little quail, sits on the ground. And it also sits in the trees. And here we have a canary bird, which is yellow. And we have other little birds, a chaffinch, and a goldfinch, and a linnet. These are all little birds. And the robin redbreast, and the hedge sparrow, which you've also seen around London. We have a very pretty bird called a parrot. And there's a parrot up in the tree. And we have a starling. There he is. And a blackbird. And of course, here's our parrot in the cage, because very, very often we keep birds, or some people do, keep birds in cages. Here's a bird cage, and here's our parrot in the cage. Here we have wild birds, and the first one we have here is a very big bird, is an ostrich, which is the biggest of them all. It's an ostrich. The smallest of them all is a wren. It's very small. There it is, tiny little wren. Certainly in England it's the smallest bird we find. Then we have the owl. Here's an owl. Its two eyes are in front. The hoopoe bird, which is brown. It's got a funny little crest on its head. You see them in London sometimes. They come from Africa. A hoopoe bird. And we have a bird of paradise, a very beautiful bird with lots of lovely coloured feathers. It's amazing to see. It's very rare. A pheasant. Here's a pheasant, number 6. And a bustard, which is a very big bird. You find it on the plains around Canterbury. And a wild peacock. Here. A moorhen. Here. And a woodcock. Here. Number 11. Number 12 is a thrush. And here's a thrush sitting in the bush. And these birds, the wild peacock, and the partridge, and the thrush, and the moorhen, these are lovely to eat, but you don't often find them in the butcher shop. Then we have a crane here, and a turtle dove, number 14, which makes it sound like. And we have a cuckoo here, which lays its eggs in the nests of other birds, and it pushes the real eggs out of the nest, so its eggs are put in its place. And we have the wood pigeon and the jaybird, and here, black as night, the crow. The crow is completely black. And those are wild birds. Right, number 1 you can see here is an eagle. He's got very sharp beak, great big wings, sharp talons, which we call his claws. He is the king of the birds. And here you can see he's staring at the sun. Number 2 is a vulture. And the vulture eats dead animals. Here's a dead animal. You can see it's pretty much dead, right? The vulture eats dead animals. And so does the raven, number 3, which is black. And this, a dead animal like this, we call it carrion. So these birds eat carrion. They eat dead animals. A kite, number 4, which is a small kind of hawk. It chases chickens. A falcon, number 5, is a much bigger bird. Not as big as an eagle, but very similar. And we also have a harrier, number 6, and a hawk, number 7. These are all very similar birds. And these catch other birds. They are birds of prey. And number 8, the gerfalcon, catches pigeons and bigger birds. And very often people breed falcons and keep them not as pets because they can never really be tamed, but people often keep falcons and use them to go hunting with. In this picture we have birds that live near the water, and in the middle, number 1, we have the swan with its long graceful neck, and number 2, a goose. Number 3, a duck swimming on the water. There it is, a duck. and they swim up and down the water. A cormorant, number 4, dives into the water and it catches its fish underneath. We can also say here a pelican, right, with a great big beak. You can see pelicans, there's some pelicans in the ponds in Regent's Park. Sorry, St James's Park. My apologies, might go to the wrong park and not see them. So they're in the pond at St James's Park, pelicans. We also have an osprey, which is like a kind of hawk, and a seamew, which is a seagull, and these fly down and catch fish in the water. But a heron, number 7, stands quietly on the banks of the river and it catches its fish from the banks. So as a fish swims by, it suddenly darts down with its beak here and catches a fish. You can see there the heron's got a fish in its beak. A bittern, here's a bittern, lives in the marshes. It puts its beak into the water and it makes a noise like the noise of an ox bellowing. It's a very loud noise, like a foghorn. And here we have a little wagtail, also lives near the water, and it wags its tail. Yeah, it's got a long tail and it wags its tail around. It moves it from side to side.